now. So, great. Thank you for the constant feedback. You guys are doing great here. So in terms of my name's Dr. Katie Hollick. If you are looking for me physically, I'm in SCAGS 395C. My virtual office hours are going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 12 or by appointment. I'm more than happy to Zoom with anyone. I've been really impressed with the way people have reached out thus far via email if they've had questions or concerns. And please continue that. I will tell you right now, I'll talk a little bit about my career, but I am a teaching professor first and foremost. So my job, my focus, my love, and my passion is to, have students succeed, have students learn what they want to learn, not get in their way, not make, bigger hoops for them to jump through. So please, if you have a question, I'm much happier to answer that than have you go through the semester with any kind of issue. So please do reach out if you have questions or concerns, and I'm really happy to facilitate that. In terms of kind of my background and kind of where I'm coming from, I'm screen sharing and it's going very slow. So in terms of kind of my background and where I've come from, my beginnings are kind of maybe like many of you. I come from, oh goodness. Okay, hopefully everyone is still with me here. So in terms, I'm sorry for the long pause, and I'll explain why this issue probably will not continue to be an issue for a variety of reasons, but just hold on with me for today. And like I said, in the future, this should hopefully not be as much of an issue. Okay, so in terms of my kind of academic path, like many of you, I don't know how many of you are native Montanans, but I'm actually from Chinook. From Chinook High School, I came to the University of Montana. I'm actually a University of Montana graduate myself. I graduated with an undergraduate in microbiology and psychology, and then I also got a PhD in neuroscience. So when we get to the area of the course that's focused on, the central nervous system, that's going to kind of be the area that I'm really excited about. Not that the human body in its entirety isn't like a wonderful organism, but neuroscience is kind of my shtick. So from there, I went to the University of Great Falls and I taught anatomy and physiology there, as well as a variety of other courses. And then after the University of Great Falls, I actually did a postdoctoral stint at the United States Army Institute of Chemical Defense, in which I studied the effects of nerve agents on brain function. And so what I was doing was I was looking for therapeutic drugs that could possibly mitigate nerve agent exposure to let's say soldiers in the field or even maybe civilians. And so that was kind of a very interesting position. If for those of you who are interested in science, if you're maybe a post-bac here in a few years and you're looking for some type of research experience, working for the United States government is a really interesting kind of route to go. From there, I took a position at Lehigh University. I was a professor of practice there and actually taught large lecture classes and genetics, cellular molecular biology. And then lastly, kind of my last move has been back here to where I've been teaching in the pharmacy department, pharmacology, neuropharmacology, as well as the neuroscience department, and then this class of anatomy and physiology. In terms of non-research expertise, again, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because we need to get on to content. I love food, I love travel, and in the last 6 months, kind of this little guy has taken over my life, my son Hawthorne. So with that in mind, I just kind of wanted to give you a glimpse of, I'm a whole person, much like you're a whole person, and I do try to be very responsive to my students. I answer emails whenever I can. From 9 to 5, you'll probably get 100% response rate from me. From maybe 5 to 8 o'clock, not as good, but after 8 o'clock, I do check my emails again before I go to bed. So again, if you have an extenuating circumstance and need to connect with me, that's a good time to do it. Okay, I'm just gonna exit out here really quick just because I want to check into the chat and make sure that everything is still a go and that you're still able to everything's a go in terms of the meeting. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up from someone, just because I'm checking out the chat now? Okay, great, awesome, thank you so much. Okay, so we'll go back to presentation. So in terms of the required materials for this course, I've been getting a lot of questions about the Wiley Plus, since that's included on the Moodle site. Now the Moodle site is going to be probably one of your greatest resources. Again, because we are doing this online and we're not doing it live, you're going to probably need to be checking Moodle and relying on Moodle more than you would in your regular live class. So the textbook will be required, the Principles of Anatomy and Physiology, but you do not need to purchase a physical text. And if you have already done so, that's fine. You can keep that physical text, or if you would like to return it to the bookstore, so be it. The Wiley Plus subscription, kind of the second note here, the Wiley Plus is actually very much a requirement. That is a subscription through a publisher in which your quizzes and homeworks will be administered. And so you will need to subscribe to the Wiley Plus for the administration of this course. Now with the Wiley Plus, I know that being a college student is expensive, and that's actually part of why the Wiley Plus is a choice that I made as an instructor, because for $69, you get the subscription to getting quizzes, getting homeworks, but you also get included in that is the e-text. Now, if you are not an e-text person, I understand that completely. If you want to have that physical copy in front of you, then you can rent a physical copy from the publisher for $30. That will take maybe a week and a half to get to you, but you will have the e-text available to you at that time. So just make sure that you are subscribing to that Wiley Plus, and that and again, if you're a physical textbook person, you can rent for the additional $30. And I think you can also purchase a loose leaf copy of the text as well, if that's also kind of a direction you want to go. So I'm hoping that if you've purchased your book new at the bookstore and you're just learning about this now, I'm hoping that you can return it for a full refund if that's again the route that you want to go. And I'd be happy to chat with the bookstore on your behalf if that needs to be in fact the case. So again, make sure you are subscribing to the Wiley Plus, and because of like the $69, that's far cheaper than what you would be paying if you got the physical book at the bookstore. And then if you rent the physical copy, that's up to $99. And somebody just said in the chat that their book cost $140 at the bookstore. So again, just I want to keep in mind the cost, because I know how expensive these books can be. So if we can keep that on the lower end, I really hope that's the case. The next requirement is going to be a computer. Obviously, you're going to need to be able to Zoom with the class. Internet will be needed as well. If you are having any issues with accessibility to internet, or you're unable to connect, or your internet goes down, please be very open with communication with me, because I know that those things do happen. I'm not going to be taking attendance on a regular basis. There will be some kind of participation-ish, like points that for the semester, but if you are having internet accessibility issues, better to communicate that to me sooner rather than later, and then we can work together to kind of come up with a compromise, or to figure out how to work around that. So like I said, it's going to be kind of, you know, an odd semester, and I'm more than happy to work with you with kind of the things that arise. Just like the patience that you guys have given me the first few minutes of this class today, I would like to extend that back to you as much as possible over the course of this semester. So again, these are going to be the required materials. Okay, so kind of the course outline and how this course is going to be structured. So anatomy and physiology is a very kind of dense topic, and there's, for lack of a better word, a lot of memorization and, you know, things that you're going to have to kind of process regularly. Now, when I was a college student, I remember I would have 3 exams a semester, and I would not really study. I would wait till the night before that, first exam, and then I would cram all night. And, needless to say, when I did that, my success rate wasn't that high. So what I'm hoping by the structure of this course to do is to keep you on task. So you're not like waiting the night before the first exam to kind of cram in all this material. So although I'm asking you to do a lot of smaller assignments, I think that's to your advantage because one, those assignments are giving you points here and there, and you're not all having to depend on exams for your points. And two, and hope it keeps you on track in terms of studying. So each week you're going to have two things that you're going to be, well, really three things, but the two first things that we're going to talk about are your homeworks and your quizzes. So your homework assignments are going to be due midnight on Monday of each week, and that's going to be administered through the Wiley Plus website. It's called Adaptive Practice. And what Adaptive Practice allows you to do is to take a homework assignment, it's almost like a quiz, and it adapts to your learning and what you know about this particular topic. So at the beginning of the week, let's say for chapter 2, you haven't studied chemistry for a long time and you're maybe behind in it a little bit. What the Adaptive Practice homework will do is it's going to adapt to whether you get those questions right or wrong. And it's going to tell you where maybe your strengths and your weaknesses lie. So it's kind of like a self-assessment for you to figure out where you are with the material prior to us starting the week. Now, the big thing that I want everyone to hear here very loud and clear is for the homework, the adaptive practice, that is going to be based, you're going to be graded on that based on completion and not the raw score. So as long as you log in and do your adaptive practice, if you get a 0%, you're still going to get your 10 points for the week. It doesn't matter if you get that 0% because you logged on and you did it and you got a chance for understanding where you're at with that material. So points are for completion, not correctness. Okay, the second thing that you'll be required to do assignment-wise each week will be these quiz assignments on Friday at midnight. So again, next week, let's say chapter 2, on Monday, you'll have your adaptive practice. We'll meet Tuesday and Thursday, and then on Friday, you'll have your quiz. Now, hopefully by Friday, since you've done your adaptive practice and we've met and we've discussed things, you'll have a much better comprehension of the material. So you'll be given a quiz on Friday, and that will be graded on correctness, not completion. So in that case, if you get a 5 out of 10, that's going to be the grade that's recorded in the grade book. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second and ask if anybody has any questions. Now, if you want to unmute and ask them verbally, that's fine. And if you want to post anything in the chat, I'm keeping my eye on that as well. So again, if anybody has any questions about the homework assignments or the quizzes, I'm happy to answer those now. And I'll also pause at the end of the recording.
Do we have our chapter 1 quiz due by tomorrow for what we're going over today? Okay.
Yes, so your chapter 1 quiz right now is due tomorrow. Now, given kind of the technical difficulties that we had at the start of this, I think what I might do is just see how far we get in the material. And I'm actually thinking of just pushing that. I did have it the time point set for tomorrow, but I think I might push it to Saturday at midnight just because I think that we might not get all the way through the lecture material today. So we'll record the rest of the material and you'll have a chance to watch that, and then you can answer it hopefully by Saturday at midnight. So here's my final statement. I'm moving the assignment due dates for the quizzes and homeworks to Saturday, and we'll talk about the homework that's due on Saturday as well. But thank you for your question. Okay, I've got a few homework and quizzes and reading assignments are based partially on the reading material, the materials that are in the textbook, but they're also based off of the lectures. So the homeworks, though, since it's kind of a pre-assessment quiz, it's basically just giving you an understanding of where you're sitting with the material. So it isn't necessarily a reading assignment. And then the quiz at the end of the week will be based off of the material that we've covered for the week. Do we have to turn in homework to Moodle as well as Wiley Plus or just Wiley? So with the exception of the very first homework, everything is going to be through Wiley Plus, and that's where your grades will be kept. Now, with that being said, I'm a big believer in you knowing what your grade is at any given time. So each week I'll be updating the grades that you're recording in Wiley Plus and converting them over to Moodle so you can keep a pretty much current tally on where you're sitting at grade-wise for your quizzes, homeworks, and any other assignments that you might be completing. Okay, we'll be able to go back and do the adaptive practice as many times as we want to test ourselves. Okay, so that's a great question. So since the adaptive practice does allow you to kind of see where you're sitting at with materials, once I've recorded your grades for the adaptive practice, what I'll do is I'll reopen those adaptive practices so you can use them as kind of study quizzes for the exams. And so so once you've recorded your adaptive practice number, I'll open them back up and you can use them to study for the exams, because I think that could be, again, a very useful tool. And what I really want to do is maximize every ounce of what we can get out of this Wiley Plus subscription if you're going to be spending your money on it. Will the quiz be on Wiley Plus as well? The answer to that is yes. So both quizzes and homeworks will be on the Wiley Plus. Can you take your quiz at any time on Fridays? The quizzes are going to be open for if you see the quizzes listed on the Wiley Plus website, they're open for you to take. I'm not going to open them. So as soon as you see a week open on Wiley Plus, right now I think I have weeks 1, 2, and maybe 3 on Wiley Plus. As soon as you see them there, you can take that quiz and just make sure you've done it before the due date. What's the fastest resource you can get your book? If you subscribe to Wiley Plus, you'll have access to the e-text immediately. So like I said, if for any reason you feel like you're not going to be able to complete the quiz by Saturday at midnight, reach out to me and then we can talk about making some possible exceptions. Like I said, I want to be very flexible with this semester, and I want to make sure that you are able to complete your assignments with all the tools. As with everything you have. Are the quizzes and homework open book? Yes, there's no way for me to monitor whether you're looking at the textbook or not while you're taking the quizzes and homeworks. I'll leave that kind of up to you as to how much you want to test yourself or challenge yourself. You know, I think it's very much an individual's perspective. So yes, you can obviously look at the textbook while you're taking the quiz. Is the Wiley Plus included from the physical copy of the book from the bookstore? No, I believe it is not. I think you'll have to purchase a subscription separately if you want the physical book that you've purchased from the bookstore and the Wiley Plus subscription. Will the quizzes be tested and timed? No, they will not. You will be given kind of unlimited amounts of time for these assignments. Just make sure you've completed them by the due date. And just so everyone knows, these are, I think everyone has access to the chat. These are just kind of the questions that are coming up in the chat. Can we buy Wiley Plus online at the bookstore? Charity, can you clarify your question a little bit? You can buy Wiley Plus. Oh, you have a stipend. Okay, so I think there are Wiley Plus subscriptions available through the bookstore, but if there are not, that is something I will change as soon as possible. Can we get Wiley Plus through the app? I do not know the answer to that question, and I am going to copy that right now so I can get you an answer. That's a great question. These are all great questions. Does anyone else have any questions before I move on about the Wiley Plus? In case you have a question, and we're going over this now, what's the course ID for the Wiley Plus? It's the letter A, 53878. Now that number is posted to the Moodle site, and there's actually kind of an informational flyer posted to the Moodle site as well that has that course ID. And at any point you need a course ID. Can I repeat? Just because I want to make sure I'm not giving you the correct. I'm sure, I'm like 90% sure I'm correct here, but it's A53878. But let me just double check that to make sure that I'm not. I would hate to send you all into the wrong direction. Okay, that does. Yes. Okay. So yes. So that's the course ID. And like I said, if for some reason you want to see like kind of the physical number, if you go to Moodle, there is on the, I think the either introduction page or the first day, there is an informational sheet with that course ID on it. I've also posted a forum kind of chat session on Moodle as well. So let's say you're having a question about this, about Wiley Plus, and you don't get it answered during this class, we post your question there and I'll be happy to answer your questions there. And I've also posted the course ID on that forum on the Moodle site as well. So the question is the homework due tomorrow. The homework and quizzes are both going to be extended to midnight Saturday night, and I will amend all of that on the Wiley Plus site and on Moodle as well, just because I feel like, you know, it's just going to be a tight schedule. So yes. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Like I said, anybody posting a question, it's great because I'm sure there are other people in this class that have the same question. Okay. I'm going to move on, but please feel free to kind of keep the chat rolling. And again, I actually think this is an advantage over your regular classroom chat because many people probably wouldn't be asking me questions as easily as they are now. Okay, so the way this class is going to be structured is all of your lectures, the course material, will be pre-recorded via Zoom, posted to YouTube, and then embedded into the Moodle website. So if you go to week 2 right now, in the Moodle website, you'll actually see an embedded lecture of lecture 2 of chapter 2. So you won't have to go to YouTube. You should hopefully be able to watch it right there on the Moodle site. If you just scan down into the week, you should have an embedded video that you can just hit play and watch the lecture for the week. Now, with that being said, because the lectures are going to be kind of recorded and watched outside of class time, you'll be able to watch those lectures on your time. Given, again, kind of the craziness of this semester, I'm hoping that that flexibility makes it far easier for people to succeed, to look at the material. And also, you know, like I said, everybody I think would prefer to be in the classroom, but this gives you the advantage of going back and rewatching lectures before you take an exam, which I think is a huge advantage. We will still be meeting each week via Zoom during our regular class time. We will still be meeting from 3:40 to 5 o'clock each week. Now, during those meeting times, what we'll be doing is going over the study guides. So often I taught classes, you know, students are always asking me, you know, how do I succeed in this course? What's going to be on the exam? And so what I've done in this course is to provide you a study guide that kind of goes through point by point the important things that you'll need to know in order to succeed on the exam. And we're going to talk about those study guides during class time. Now, like I said before, I am not going to be taking attendance in order to go over those study guides. However, what I'm going to ask of you is that you attend the class at least 14 times over the course of the semester and participate in the study guide kind of discussion. So the way that the physical classes are going to kind of be situated is that we'll come together as a group. You'll be sent into breakout rooms, into smaller groups to discuss the study guide questions for the first 30 to 40 minutes. Once you've come up with your answers for the study guide questions, we're going to come back together as a large group, go over those answers. And so hopefully by the end of class time, you'll have a really well, you know, developed study guide that you'll be able to use for the exams. You'll have the individual lectures recorded outside of class, and during class we'll be kind of rehashing all of that material and kind of discussing it live in order for you to just kind of process through the material a little bit more. The registration code for Wiley Plus. The study, so Samantha, the registration code, so if you're getting prompted for a registration code, kind of like a long 16-digit number, that's actually not what you want. A registration code is if you kind of buy the card like at the bookstore, you'd use your registration code. If you go down, you can actually select the 6-month subscription to Wiley Plus, and then it will ask you for your course code, which again is that A 53878 number. So Tia, the study guides are posted right now. They're as individual documents on the course site. And then also with every lecture, I'll be showing you the study guide at the beginning of the lecture as well. So you have access to those for the weeks that are posted right now. Okay, so let's keep, again, thank everyone for sending your questions in. Okay, so again, we'll be going over the study guides during class time, I'm asking you to participate 14 times over the course of the semester. There's going to be four pro sections during the course of the semester. Pro sections historically associated with this class have almost been like labs that are associated with this class. And so we'll continue to use the Wiley Plus because they've got some really nice lab simulations there where we can look at individual muscle groups. So you can actually see a cadaver, you can see an individual muscle group, you can pick out that muscle group and identify it. So there's actually some advantages again to using this lab because you don't have to work with a cadaver that's been maybe used by 15 other pre-med students. In this case, you'll be looking at a well-preserved cadaver and being able to pick out those individual muscle groups, and those will also be useful for studying as well. And those pro sections are going to start a little later on in the semester, and if you've looked at the syllabus at all, I've listed the pro sections on there. Okay, and then there will be, I'm going to keep going, and then at the end of this I'll ask for more questions. There's going to be 3 exams, each for the 100 points, and then 1 cumulative final. But because we have all of these other assignments that we're talking about here, your exams and cumulative finals are going to just be 50% of your grade versus 100% of your grade versus some courses. Okay, so I'm going to post here. The exams are not going to be open book. I am going to ask that you zoom in for your exams, and I'm going to have individuals proctor the exams just to kind of mitigate any possible, internet searching, exam book searching, anything like that. So the exams will not be open book or open note. They'll be closed book, closed note, but be administered online. And I'll still be asking you to zoom in on those days, and we'll be proctoring them via Zoom. That's a good question. Other questions before I move on from this slide? Do you have the schedule made of the classes, tests, and exams? Is there a schedule posted for when they are? Is that your question? Yes. Okay. So if probably the best place for you to find that material is on the syllabus. Yeah. So if you look at the syllabus, I've actually taken quite a bit of time in creating what chapters we'll go over each week, what the assignments will be for each week, and when the exams will be coming off. Offhand, I don't have the exam dates memorized, but if you go to even the Moodle site, it will say, this week there's exam 1, this week there's exam 2, and this week there's an exam 3. So, okay, so yeah, check out the Moodle site and the syllabus for the exam dates. And again, I tried to, in that syllabus, be very thorough in terms of expectations of when things are due. After you've created your account, the 6-digit code is at A53878. That's the course code, and that's going to link you into this specific course, Brian. Okay, keep asking questions as I keep going forward, and I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so again, people are always very concerned with, how do I do well in this course outside of knowing the material? Where are my points coming from? So like I said, there's going to be 4 pro sections over the course of the semester. Each one of those will be worth 25 points. Your total points for that will be 100. Your in-class questions, like I said, those will be from the study guides while we're meeting. I'll be asking you to participate 14 times across the semester, and your points per item will be 10, and the total points awarded will be 140 for that. Your homework, again, which is your adaptive practice, you'll have 15 of those, each due Monday at midnight. You'll have 10 points for that per homework, 150 total. Your quizzes will be 12% of your grade. You'll have 12 of those, 10 points per them, and 120. The reason we have fewer quizzes and homeworks is because we have 3 exams, and so those we lose 3 of those essentially quiz weeks that we'd be using. The exam is kind of supplemented there. Your semester exams, there will be 3 of those, each worth 100 points each. Your total points awarded will be 300, and then your comprehensive final exam will be 190 points, and that will be taking place kind of after November, I think, 18th. The exam final exam is comprehensive. It'll be on material that we've covered the entire semester. And because I like nice round numbers and it makes it very easy for you to understand what your final grade is, all of these numbers are going to add up to a nice round 1,000 points. So if you're keeping track of your points in Moodle, whatever your points are out of 1,000, that will essentially kind of correlate to what your final letter grade will be. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the grading at all before I move forward? The correct time, Jenny, will be midnight. I'm going to have to shift those all to Saturday as well. Good question. Do I offer extra credit? So there is an instance in which extra credit will be, there is an extra credit assignment that is located in the syllabus. And it's actually an op-ed assignment. It's a writing assignment. It's anywhere between 500 and 750 words. It's a opinion piece that you're going to be writing about some type of anatomy and physiology topic. It can be any topic that you choose. This semester, COVID might be of a particular interest, but really it's open to any topic in anatomy and physiology, and that's a very wide breadth of topics. And so if you have any questions about that extra credit assignment, please feel free to reach out, and that is one place where if you are worried about your grade, you can make up some points there. And won't say that I've not been known to throw in an extra credit question on exams as well. So just keep your eyes out for that. So yes, I'm not one of those professors who said these are all of the points possible for the course. No, I have given extra credit in the past. Are each of the semester exams cumulative? So exams 1 through 3 will be non-cumulative. They'll be over the chapters that we've covered at that point in time, but the final will be cumulative. Are there any specific times that the extra credit opens and closes? The extra credit is officially open now and will close probably about a week before the semester ends. Just so I have enough time to grade it and give those points to you. Good questions, everyone. Anyone have any other questions? Can you write? You cannot write multiple papers. You can only write one paper. Okay. Okay, so your first homework, or I'm sorry, your first quiz / homework is actually going to be an easy one. There is a information sheet that's located this is the only time you're going to have an assignment that is not through Wiley+, although this file is uploaded at Wiley+. This is located on Moodle. So you'll open this on Moodle and you'll turn it in on Moodle. This is an information sheet that I filled out in 2018. Sorry. So this is an information, I'll answer your questions here in a second. So this is an information sheet I filled out in 2018. You can see my name was a little different then. I wasn't married. I do want to know your preferred pronouns, so I make sure that I am addressing you as such. My email was a little different, but my career goals have stayed the same: to blow students' mind with science and help them achieve their professional goals. So anytime you want to talk about your professional goals, I'm happy to do that as well. And then again, all this stuff is kind of probably not super of your interest, but I will say I am interested in virtual reality and integrating it into the classroom. And if this was not a pandemic semester, I would probably try to figure out any possible way to get it integrated into this course, because I think there are a lot of really cool applications. But back to you. So this information sheet is posted on Moodle. This is posted on the blank version of this is posted on Wiley+. You're going to fill this out, save it, and upload it to Moodle. This will be the only assignment that you upload to Moodle. So just take note of that, hopefully, if you're listening. Does this question go towards one of my in-class questions? Okay, the questions that you're answering have to be study guide related. Those 14 times that you're interacting are going to be related to study guide questions. The extra credit is going to be worth 20 points. So that can make up for, let's say, if you only get to 12 instead of 14, so the extra credit is worth 20 points. Ethan, is the information due on Friday or Saturday? It's going to be due on Saturday, so you've got till Saturday. I'm going to move the due dates for both the homeworks and the quizzes for both things Saturday at midnight. Where do you find it on Wiley Plus? If you go down to kind of the week 1, you've got chapter 1, and then there's kind of a bar that says assignments, and underneath assignments it'll have like an adaptive practice bracket, and then below that there will be kind of a file that says student info sheet. So there you should be able to find it, but then it's also located on Moodle. So if you have any problems with that, feel free to let me know. Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, actually, you know, this is a great timing. So this is what the Wiley Plus website looks like really quickly. So here you can see that there's chapter 1. These are kind of each one of the chapters that we'll be going over discussing today, hopefully. And then you have your assignments, and your assignments for this week would be adaptive practice. This due date is incorrect. It's going to be the 22nd. It's worth 10 points. And then here you can see the file for quiz 1 is located right below that. Now, just a reminder that this student info sheet needs to be turned in on Moodle, not on Wiley Plus, but that's the only exception here, but you can pull that from either place. If we go to kind of what the adaptive practice looks like, you can see here for each chapter you'll begin taking the Wiley Plus. It'll report out how long you've spent on that, kind of your proficiency in that chapter. So let's say our first exam is on chapters 1 through, I'm just going to say 4, it might be 5, but you'll be able to see kind of how you've done on your adaptive practice ahead of time, and maybe know which chapters you need to go back and maybe work on a little bit more. So that's kind of the advantage of adaptive practice, is it shows you, you know, where your weaknesses might be. Okay, so Riley, so if you click, so there's an access code at the top, right? And then if you go right below that, there should be kind of a tab where it says 6-month or 12-month subscription. If you click on 6-month subscription, you should be able to select what, if you want the $69 or the $99 or I think the $115. And then once you've done that, if it's asking you for a registration code or for a course code, your course code is at A53878. Go ahead and try that. If you're still having issues, feel free to chat again. Okay, so back to the adaptive practice. So after you've taken adaptive practice, I've kind of just gone through this, you know, just to kind of try it myself, and just to see what would happen if I got more or right or more wrong. But what it does is it allows you to kind of see again where your deficiencies maybe are a little bit more and where you're maybe a little bit stronger. So, and it breaks down some of the different parts of the chapter, letting you know where your strengths and your weaknesses might be. Okay. So, before I go into course content, actual course content, I'm going to pause here and ask if anybody would like to verbally speak up and ask any questions, or if anybody would like to ask any questions on the chat. Yes, so Ethan, I believe that is the course code. I have quite a few people here who've entered the course code, so please, someone who's entered the course code, just double check me. I'm like 95% sure that's correct, but if it is not, I wouldn't hate to continually be saying the wrong number. And then Kimberly, they're multiple choice, and so from that multiple choice, they'll kind of be able to pick up where the deficiencies are and point you to like either an easy question or a more difficult one. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Maggie, for confirming the course code. Okay. Any other questions or concerns before I move forward? One last thing I would like to say about this class. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to go well. I mean, today was kind of some hiccups here at the beginning, but I think again, the flexibility should be an advantage. When we are meeting in class, there are a couple of things I'd like to just say generally. I would like to be very respectful of one another. I like to create a very inclusive classroom. I want everyone to feel comfortable speaking up, being themselves, having their opinions, being respectful of other people's opinions. And let's just, again, this is a learning environment and this is a learning institution, and let's just be respectful in every possible way. We are not going to meet face-to-face. This will all be virtual. because we have 100 students, there's really not that many classrooms that could facilitate, you know, that many students unless we did break it up into separate sections and separate rooms, and that was going to be kind of a logistical nightmare. And after I designed the course the way that I did with the pre-recording of the lectures, going virtual just made the most sense to me. But again, the face-to-face would have obviously been far better. So yes, I very much prefer an inclusive classroom. And the second thing I wanted to say is if you're a student who has accommodations, that's, you know, I completely understand, and please make sure that you come to me with those accommodations as soon as possible, just so I can integrate them into my course design. If you are a student who requires extra time for exams, again, make sure you're passing on the required, you know, paperwork from Disability Student Services. If you have any issues that you would like to talk to me directly about, again, my door is always open. I'm very discreet. And again, if there's anything that you need, feel free to come to me and we can have that conversation. If I rented a book, do I still have to pay just to do homeworks and quizzes? So the Wiley Plus subscription, so I'm not sure if you rented a book that outside of kind of the Wiley website, but you will still need to purchase a Wiley Plus subscription to take homeworks and quizzes, as well as complete the pro sections. Okay, any other questions or concerns about the course before we move on? Okay, so the course code, the A53878 is not valid, Ethan? Okay. Unless anybody else chimes up about this particular issue, let's go ahead and just stay online after we finish class, and we'll work on getting this fixed together. If anybody else has kind of the same issue, thank you, Audrey, for your help. If anyone else has kind of the same issue, please feel free to kind of pipe up, and then we can kind of do kind of a help group, and maybe after class ends today. Okay, I'm going to keep my eye on this chat. So let's go ahead and go into content, right? Anatomy and physiology, that's why you're here. So let's just go ahead and start off by introducing the topic of anatomy and physiology, talk about the human body kind of as a larger set of individual organ systems, and then talk about some property of all living things, and then the concepts of homeostasis, again, keeping everything nice and on this even keel, the state of homeostasis. So somebody asked me about the study guide questions. On each lecture, I'll actually post the study guide questions as one of my first couple slides, just so you have them there. What I would recommend doing is, as you're watching the lectures via YouTube, is to pull up your study guides, maybe in half of your window, put the lecture window, the video on the other side, and basically as you are watching the video, you can sit there and answer your study guide questions. I think that's usually probably the most effective way to do it. So again, these are kind of the concepts or topics for this particular chapter we'll be focused on. And then when I go to write the exam or pull multiple choice questions, these are the types of, these are going to be the focuses of those questions. So again, I want you to succeed. I want you to know exactly what my expectations are and exactly where you should be spending your time studying. Okay. All the PowerPoints are on Moodle, yes. Chapter 1, 2, and 3 are all on Moodle. I think chapters 1 and 2 are open right now, but actually all the chapters are on Moodle, but haven't been open to students yet. Okay. So anatomy and physiology. So anatomy and physiology is a study of structure, whereas physiology is a study of how body parts function. So you'll probably hear me say the term structure-function relationship a lot over the course of this particular semester, just because that's really what anatomy and physiology is this interaction of structures that have been created to generate a very specific function. And so in this semester, we will cover things like the integumentary system, the skeletal system, the muscular system, and the nervous system. Those are kind of the big areas that we're going to hit again and again. And so the way that we'll talk about them is talking about first kind of the structure, and then later on a little bit about kind of their function and how their functions are carried out. What's interesting though is if you open up all the different types of or branches of anatomy and physiology, it's actually a very wide range and a lot of different types of science. So although you're taking an anatomy and physiology class now, you'll notice that there are a lot of other classes that are offered on campus that fall kind of under this umbrella of anatomy and physiology. So you have embryology, you have developmental biology, cell biology is a huge topic, histology, gross anatomy. So again, each one of these still fall under the kind of the umbrella of anatomy and physiology, just to kind of different levels of organization of the human body. What's interesting, again, is each one of these is a huge, vast topic in which an individual course, set of courses, departments are even dedicated to. Probably more anatomy focused, you can have anatomy such as systemic, regional, surface, imagery, or pathological. Again, each one of these types of anatomy is focused on kind of the structure and kind of how those structures carry out maybe their very specific functions. The human body is a very beautiful thing that has been created to carry out a specific set of functions. And so each one of those structures has a very intentional structure to help carry out that function. Systemic would be of the nervous or respiratory systems, very specific systems. Regional is, you know, a specific area of the body that's being focused on. Surface is obviously exactly what it sounds like, markings to understand the surface markings to understand the underlying organism. Imaging, again, that's a particular topic that's continually evolving. As our imaging techniques get more and more advanced, we're able to actually tell things using these imaging techniques to a higher and higher resolution. So that's, again, a very rapidly evolving type of branch of anatomy. And then pathological anatomy, again, you're looking specifically at disease changes in an anatomical structure. We talk about different types of physiology. You have molecular physiology, so you're looking at molecules like proteins and DNA and how they're interacting, and again, how if there's a type of dysfunction, how a disease state arises. I myself would probably characterize myself as a neurophysiologist, where I look at the functional properties of nerve cells. Probably more specifically, I'm an electroneurophysiologist, meaning that I've studied the electrical properties of nerve cells and how those change under disease states or under stressors. Endocrinology is another type of physiology where you're studying hormones. Hormones are going to be kind of long signals that are sent across long distances in the body. So you've got these chemical messengers that signal these very long distances and are able to control large regions of the body. And then cardiovascular physiology, as you would expect, would be the study of heart and blood vessels. Again, it's kind of amazing how much of the whole branch of science is kind of encompassed with anatomy and physiology. Things like immunology, respiratory physiology, renal physiology, exercise physiology, and pathophysiology. I'm guessing some of you are interested in these specific topics. So this is kind of, again, a very broad oversight of all of these different types of physiology, anatomy, physiology that we'll be going over in this course. And then in subsequent courses, you could probably take a specific course on immunology or exercise physiology. Okay, so levels of structural organization and body systems. So how is the body organized? So I hate to say it, but this is probably one of my favorite slides of the entire class. And I'll just, again, I'm going to do this when I see slides like this, is I'm going to tell you, you will see a version of this slide on the exam. So if you want to put a star next to it or whatever, I'm just telling you that I consider this to be an important slide, and you should probably revisit it before the first exam. So what's beautiful about this is it goes through all the different levels of structural organization. So it's almost walking us through the first chapters that we'll be going over in this course. So next week, we'll be talking about the chemical level. So we'll be discussing chemistry. We'll talk about individual atoms, how those atoms form bonds, how those bonds can be made or broken. So atoms come together to form individual molecules. Those molecules come together to form macromolecules, things like, you know, DNA, proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates. And all of those macromolecules come together to form, you know, a cell. And that cell has maybe some type of specific function. So in this case, you're looking at a smooth muscle cell that has a very specific function. And then at the tissue level, those individual cells are coming together to work in a coordinated effort to carry out, again, a function. So it's, again, that structure-function relationship. And that tissue is making up maybe an organ. That organ is making up some type of organ system. And we have several different organ systems that make up an organism. So again, this is a great slide in showing you kind of how all of this is organized and how the human body is put together. And again, when you're next week, when you're sitting through class and you're like, why are we learning about chemistry? It's basically because it's a foundation of everything else that we'll be talking about. And we're just going to kind of continually build upon those topics. So again, it's a very important slide, and I think it gives you a good sense of perspective of how all these topics are related. The first, I guess, exam will probably focus on like these first 3 points here: chemical, cellular, and tissue level. And then once we get to kind of organ and organ systems, we'll be focused on kind of those later chapters of the integumentary, skeletal, muscular, and nervous system levels is what we'll go into later. Again, as I'm talking here, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat or speak up. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Okay. What's interesting to also notice as we're looking at that slide is that if you have kind of a dysfunction very early on in the level of structural organization, so let's say you have, let's say at the cellular level, a problem that can arise into those higher, more complicated structures and actually lead to disease states. So if you have an individual cell that has maybe a protein that's dysregulated, that's ultimately what can lead to a disease state in that larger, you know, tissue, organ system, and organism. So if we talk about the systems of the human body, like I said, the 11 systems that are included in this textbook are the integumentary, skeletal, muscular, nervous, endocrine, cardiovascular. You can obviously read. But the first 4 there are going to be the ones that we'll cover within this particular semester. We'll be doing the integumentary, skeletal, muscular, and nervous. Integumentary will be a single chapter. Skeletal will be a few different chapters because we're breaking the skeleton down into different areas. Muscular, again, will be several different chapters because we're going to be looking at it from kind of the individual tissue side and then more of a systems approach. And then the nervous system, kind of very similarly, we'll be breaking it down to maybe peripheral and central nervous system and then individual kind of brain regions. So although it just looks very simple, like it's just 4 different systems, the systems are very complicated systems and kind of we'll have different components that we'll talk about. In terms of the systems, these set of slides that we'll be going over now are just kind of a synopsis of those systems. And so I'm going to go through them probably pretty quickly because we'll be diving into them much more in depth later on. But the integumentary system, chapter 5, and not surprisingly, it's your skin, your nails, your sweat glands, and your oils. Very important for maintaining homeostasis, which we'll talk about a little later on. And it also regulates temperature. And as many people have probably heard the factoid that your skin is the largest organ of the body. But again, I think it kind of gets overlooked because we don't necessarily think of it as being maybe, I don't know, as interesting as the other systems, but it does have a very important role in homeostasis and regulating our interaction with the environment. Chapters 6 through 9, like I said, we'll be going over the skeletal system and several different components. They are comprised of bones and joints. We actually won't be talking about joints this semester. We'll be skipping chapter 9. But again, your bones are going to support so much of your different organs, aid in body movements, kind of be the lever which your muscles work kind of against. And they're going to also be a source of storage of minerals and fats. Also for blood cell generation. So integumentary, skeletal, next we have muscular. So the muscular system is going to be important, obviously, for mediating body movements. sorry, it's a quick image of those different systems. The muscular system is going to be important for body movements. Walking maintains posture, produces heat. Your muscles create a lot of kinetic energy, energy of motion, so it helps keep our bodies warm. Then lastly, this semester we'll be talking about the nervous system, the brain, spinal cord. Again, we'll be talking about both central and peripheral nervous system. The function is to basically mediate our interpretation of our environment, create homeostasis, regulate internal body function, interpret changes in the environment, respond to environmental changes, but also, do things like learn and remember and communicate with our environment as well. So just a quick view of the systems, the muscular system and the nervous system. Okay, so these are the systems we'll be talking about in 112. If you take the second half of this 2-semester course, 113, you'll be talking about things like the endocrine system, the cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system, and the respiratory system. I'm not going to go through these extensively just because we're not going to be covering them this semester, but it is important to just kind of recognize what some of the general organs and functions are of these systems. But again, since we won't be covering them extensively this semester, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time on these introductions right now. Okay. Before I move forward, any other questions or concerns? Okay. So characteristics of a living system. So if we talk about living versus non-living things and how we would categorize them, so all living things have characteristics that distinguish them from non-living things. So life processes in humans include things like metabolism, responsiveness, movement, growth, differentiation, and reproduction. So humans are able to metabolize and break down things that they consume from their environment. They're able to respond to their environment given different stimuli. They're able to move via the system we just talked about, the muscular system. They're able to grow and differentiate. Differentiation means that the cells are able to kind of change into specialized cells to carry out functions. So if you have a stem cell, it's able to differentiate into a skin cell versus a nerve cell. And lastly, they're able to reproduce via the different sex cells that they carry within their system. So right now I'm just going to pause because I've been talking for a long time and ask, okay, right now we are dealing with probably, again, we've got this impending pandemic that's imposed upon us from a virus, the coronavirus, obviously. Is a virus living or not living? So I want everyone, if you've checked out, go to your chat, and in the chat, I want you to tell me, is a virus living or non-living? It's a zombie. Okay. So this is really interesting to see because I feel like what we're coming up with here is almost like a pretty even split of living and non-living, because as many of you are kind of saying here, is that a virus requires a host, and so I think the argument can be made that it's a non-living entity because it requires a host in order to replicate. But it does have some components that we're talking about here that are required by a living individual. So things like growth and reproduction, it does that effectively, although it doesn't do it effectively independently. So again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's a right or wrong answer, because this is kind of one of those thought questions that professors love to throw out there. Is a virus living or non-living? And I think that there are still people who are writing editorials about this in science journals. So just something to kind of think about. Bigger picture about the not living and non-living and what the characteristics that are required to characterize something as living. So if something is living, it's a very important, especially for multicellular organisms, for them to maintain homeostasis. So Homeo meaning kind of sameness, and stasis meaning standing the same, is a condition of equilibrium or balance. So you want to have kind of a continual equal balance within an organism, and it's maintained by all of the body's regulatory systems and processes. It's kind of amazing how much of your body energy is actually utilized to maintain homeostasis, because if you have these huge drastic swings in homeostasis, the body leads to dysfunction, and in a lot of instances, this is what leads to disease states, is if you don't have the proper maintenance of homeostasis. Something that just immediately comes to mind is temperature regulation. Like, your body spends a lot of effort being tightly regulated temperature-wise. Now, one of the reasons for that being is, again, if we go all the way down the levels of organization, we talk about individual atoms making up molecules and making up macromolecules like proteins. Proteins function at a very specific temperature range, and if you have a huge fluctuation in the temperature range, it would cause those proteins to not work in the correct way, and that protein dysfunction leads to those disease states. So again, we'll be talking kind of about the smaller side of science here for the first week or two, but those smaller sides are important because, again, if those smaller sides aren't working well, aren't being maintained via homeostasis, that's essentially what leads to disease states. So this particular image is great because it's a very simplified cartoon showing kind of fluid homeostasis and how our bodies are maintained via homeostasis. So if you look at this image, it's basically showing you kind of like nutrients or food goes into your digestive system processes it, and then you have food waste out. And then if we talk about things like oxygen, again, it's how you interact with the environment. You take oxygen in, it is processed through your respiratory system, it gets circulated through your cardiovascular system, it basically oxygenates all of the cells in your body, and then it also is going to be producing nutrients and nitrogenous waste, and those wastes are going to be eliminated through the urinary system. So this is a it's probably the most simplified version of like an intact human I've seen. But again, regulating each part of this from between the external and internal environment is very important. And kind of one thing that helps in that regulation is the fact that we have kind of this extracellular fluid outside of all of our organ systems that help mediate any type of loss of, let's say, pH or oxygen or temperature. And so that extracellular fluid helps us maintain homeostasis. Okay, so I'm kind of alluding to the fact that control of homeostasis is very important. The imbalances occur because of disruptions from the internal or external environments. So it's important that you have this tightly regulated system. Again, the brain plays a very important part of this regulation system. It's kind of the control center that tells your body to respond in a very specific way. So if we look at homeostasis and the kind of the feedback loop of homeostasis, you start with some type of stimulus that is going to disrupt homeostasis, and that's monitored by receptors. And so your nervous system has a ton of receptors that are embedded into your body, whether it's for temperature, heat, pressure. These receptors aren't just part of your nervous system, they're part of a lot of your different organ systems, but that's going to basically send a message up to your control center, which is generally your brain, and that brain is going to tell your body to respond in some sort of way. And then you have downstream effectors that take that response and integrate it into the functioning system and bring about some type of change to bring the body back into that very delicate balance that it wants to be in. Once that balance is brought back, you can take a return into homeostasis, and this is kind of the feedback loop that the body requires in order to stay in that very tightly regulated way, whether it's pH, temperature, all of those things, the amounts of insulin in your body, all are controlled by feedback loops that your body creates. Okay. So from there are essentially two different types of feedbacks that control homeostasis. You have negative feedback and positive feedback. So negative feedback and positive feedback are the two different types of controls of homeostasis. And I'm going to kind of introduce those ideas probably at the beginning of my recorded lecture that I'll be posting on Moodle. I think we have essentially run out of time for the remainder of this class period. So what I want to do is just pause here for a second and ask if anybody has any questions, if they'd like to unmute and ask a question, or if they have anything in the group chat, because we have a minute left and I don't want to push it to the very, very last second. But if you have any questions, feel free to pose them now. I'm going to post the rest of this lecture on to Moodle. And that'll be for you to watch on your own time. We have, and actually let's go to the very last slide here. It's kind of a reminder slide of where we're at. Oops. So coming up this week, you will have homework 1, adaptive practice. That's going to be due Saturday. Quiz 1, the student info sheet. That's going to be due Saturday. Homework 2, the adaptive practice will be due Monday at midnight for chapter 2. Lectures will be recorded for you to watch on your own. Watch lecture 2 that is already posted to Moodle on Tuesday. If I ever say course site, I mean Moodle. I'm sorry, that was my previous platform, so just that I always mean Moodle. And we will be meeting via Zoom each class period to discuss the study guide questions. And the study guide question discussion, I'm going to be able to monitor who is contributing where. We'll be working with a wiki. But I didn't want to introduce too much the first day. We'll talk about and integrate that next Tuesday. So please do come next Tuesday to kind of see this initial structure of class. And I would be happy to answer your questions. Okay. Oh, your schedule says from 3:30 to 4:50. I'm apologizing. My schedule says from 3:40 to 5 o'clock, but I will check that. Okay, the bookstore can add the option for a digital Wiley Plus subscription. That would be great. I will email them as soon as we finish with class. Okay, that's what your schedule says as well, Cole. So I will check into that. I will update the schedule for this week on Moodle, and I can update the syllabus as well. And again, basically the only shift that's happening is everything's going to be due on Saturday instead of Friday. And then the exams and final are going to be multiple choice. Yes. Here says, okay, I guess by popular response, 3:30 to 4:50 will be our class time. So I apologize for starting late and going over today. Any other questions or concerns before
Thank you, Dr. Howick.
Yes. Have a great day. Hope everyone stay safe. And if you need anything, like I said, please feel free to reach out, and I'll be making sure to get the rest of this lecture updated. Thank you. Have a great day. Hi, Ethan.
Hi, Mrs. Hollick. I have a question about the extra credit that we could do. You said we could choose any topic related to anatomy or physiology. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any certain topic in mind that you'd like to read about preferably?
No, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'd like it to be something that aligns with your interests. I would prefer it if you didn't just do an extra credit topic to get points, but that you actually got something out of it at the end. So whatever your future, let's say, career interests are, or if you have some type of disease state or something like that that you feel personally akin to, then please write on that and not something that I would like to read, you know?
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, have a good day.
Hi, I have a question about the Wiley Plus.
Of course.
So I made an account and I signed in and everything. So it says a payment has to be made.
Okay.
So do we have to make a payment?
Yeah, so the subscription to Wiley Plus is the $69. So what in what way are you getting your textbook?
Do the bookstore.
Through the bookstore.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna call the bookstore and see if there's any way in which we can yeah, what their return rate policy is if you'd like to return. I don't know, do you want the physical book for the forever?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't really know if there's any way to get around then kind of the cost. So yeah, the $69 will be for the administration of the quizzes, the homeworks, and then the pro sections as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. If you have any other questions, please let me know.
Okay. Have a good day.
You too.